Marianne adjusted her apron with trembling hands as she dusted the gleaming furniture in the mansion's drawing room. She'd been working for the Langston family for almost 2 years, quietly doing her job, keeping to herself, and making sure her son, Jaden, stayed out of trouble. But today, something was different. Mr. Langston, billionaire, cold-hearted, and always impeccably dressed, was lounging with his friends and suddenly turned his gaze toward her with a smirk curling his lips. "Hey, Marianne," he said, voice dripping with mockery, "why don't you bring your son in here? Let's see if the little guy can beat us at chess. I bet he thinks he's clever." Laughter erupted around the room. It was meant as a joke, an insult wrapped in fake curiosity. But Marianne froze. Her son? Chess? They didn't know Jaden spent hours poring over old chess books she scavenged for him, solving problems far too complex for his age. Later that evening, Jaden, just 9 but with the confidence of someone far older, walked into the opulent room. He glanced at the chessboard already set, his eyes gleaming not with fear, but with something sharper, anticipation. Mr. Langston raised an eyebrow, amused. "You know how the pieces move, kid?" Jaden only gave a small nod. No one in that room knew it yet, but the game was already lost. The millionaire chuckled as he made the first move, casually sliding a pawn forward. His friends stood behind him, smirking and whispering. Jaden sat still, watching the board like a hawk watches prey. Then he responded, not with hesitation, but precision. One move. Then another. And another. The room grew quieter with every passing turn. Within 10 moves, Mr. Langston's smirk was gone. His knight was trapped. His queen was in danger. Jaden's fingers moved gracefully, like a pianist playing a familiar melody. It wasn't just that he was winning, it was how he played. Calculated. Cruel. Elegant. The man opposite him leaned in, squinting, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. And then, just like that, Jaden leaned back and said, "Checkmate." Mr. Langston stared at the board in disbelief. His friends looked from the pieces to the boy, then to each other. No one laughed now. Marianne stood in the doorway, wide-eyed. Her son hadn't just won. He had humiliated a man who thought himself above her, above them. The air was thick with something unspoken. The game had changed. The next day, the entire estate buzzed with whispers. From the kitchen staff to the groundskeepers, everyone talked about the maid's son who'd crushed Mr. Langston at chess. Some doubted it happened. Others claimed they saw it with their own eyes. But no one could ignore the shift. Jaden had made an impression, one the millionaire couldn't scrub away. Mr. Langston, embarrassed but intrigued, sat alone in his study replaying the match in his mind. Who was this boy? How could someone so young, so ordinary in appearance, dismantle his decades of strategic experience like that? He wasn't used to losing, especially not to a child from the servant quarters. Something inside him twisted with curiosity and pride, though he'd never admit it. Later that evening, he called Marianne into his office. "Your son," he said slowly, "does he study chess?" She hesitated, unsure if it was a trap. "He teaches himself," she replied. The man looked away thoughtfully, masking his surprise. He wanted another match, but this time, he wouldn't go easy. He was going to test the boy's limits, if there were any. Jaden walked back into the drawing room the next evening to find a different scene. No wine, no laughter, no audience, just Mr. Langston sitting at the table, his eyes sharp and focused. This wasn't a joke anymore. The board was set, the room silent except for the ticking of a grand clock. The millionaire gestured toward the seat across from him. They began. It was a slower game this time, more careful, more intense. Mr. Langston tried every trick he knew. He played unconventional openings, baited traps, and changed tactics. But Jaden adapted each time. His moves weren't flashy, but deliberate, growing in complexity. 10 moves in, they were even. 15, Jaden had an advantage. At move 32, Jaden slid his bishop across the board. Mr. Langston blinked. It looked harmless at first, until he realized it had just cut off his last escape. "Checkmate," Jaden whispered. Again. This time, no one saw the game but the two of them. And this time, Mr. Langston didn't smirk. He stared at the boy, not with mockery, but with something rare for him, respect. After the second defeat, Mr. Langston couldn't sleep. He pulled out old chess books, reviewed tactics, even consulted online games. None of it helped him understand how a child with no formal training outmaneuvered him so flawlessly. He started watching Jaden from a distance, during breaks, during his chores, even when he played alone. He saw the boy sketching out strategies on scraps of paper, simulating games in his head while eating lunch, solving puzzles silently while walking. Jaden's world was made of black and white squares, kings and queens, and infinite possibilities. It wasn't just talent, it was obsession, passion, genius. One morning, Mr. Langston invited a professional chess coach to the estate under the guise of a friendly visit. "Play with the boy," he instructed casually. The coach laughed. But when the match began, his laughter died fast. 37 moves later, he sat stunned, the game lost, sweat beading his forehead. "That kid," he whispered to Langston, "isn't just good. He's the real deal." Word of Jaden's gift spread beyond the mansion's walls. A visiting investor staying at the estate overheard Mr. Langston talking about the boy and challenged him to a match. "Let's make it interesting," the investor said with a smug grin. "If I win, you fund my next project. If I lose, I double your return." Mr. Langston agreed without flinching. But this time, he let Jaden in on the stakes. "You don't have to do this," he said, a rare softness in his voice. Jaden just nodded, eyes gleaming. "I want to." When the match began, the investor underestimated him immediately. Arrogance clouded his vision. He opened strong, aggressive, controlling the center. But Jaden didn't react. He adapted. He waited. And then, he struck. A combination so unexpected, the investor leaned forward, then back, trying to understand what had just happened. By the time he saw the checkmate coming, it was too late. Jaden's hand tapped the final piece gently into place. The room erupted in silence. Mr. Langston leaned back and smiled for the first time. Not everyone was thrilled with Jaden's rise. In particular, Preston, Mr. Langston's only son, watched with mounting resentment. He'd grown up in privilege, expected to inherit everything. But suddenly, his father's attention was on that boy, the maid's son. And worse? It was for playing chess. A nerd's game, Preston scoffed, though even he couldn't deny the boy was terrifyingly good. One night, Preston challenged Jaden to a match in front of some guests. "Let's see how smart you really are," he sneered. Jaden agreed quietly. The game began, but it was more than just chess, it was a war. Preston was reckless and arrogant, Jaden calm and precise. The audience could see the difference immediately. 10 minutes in, Preston's pieces were scattered, his strategy in ruins. Jaden ended the game with a flawless fork, trapping Preston's king and rook at once. "Checkmate," he said calmly. Laughter erupted from the guests. Preston stood up, face red with fury, and stormed out. From that day, he vowed revenge, not on the board, but in secret. Preston wasn't done. He couldn't beat Jaden at chess, so he found other ways. He began spreading rumors, lies that Jaden had cheated, that Marianne had stolen from the estate, that Jaden wasn't really a genius, just lucky. At first, they were just whispers, but they grew louder as Preston manipulated servants and guests alike. One day, a valuable heirloom went missing, a golden antique watch from Mr. Langston's office. All eyes turned to Marianne. "Your son's been spending too much time here," a guard said, arms crossed. Marianne pleaded, but no one listened. Mr. Langston was furious, not at her, but at the situation. He ordered a full investigation. Later that night, Jaden confronted Preston quietly in the hallway. "I know you planted the watch," he said calmly. Preston laughed, unbothered. "Prove it." Jaden didn't reply, he just walked away. But something about his eyes, that knowing calm, made Preston feel suddenly unsettled. Jaden didn't retaliate with shouting or fighting. He retaliated with a chessboard. He left a peculiar game puzzle on Preston's desk, a challenge with a cryptic note: "Solve this in 3 moves, if you can." Preston ignored it at first. But his curiosity got the better of him. He stared at the board, tried different moves, but nothing worked. Days passed, and more puzzles appeared. Each one more complex than the last. Preston began to obsess, trying to beat them, growing increasingly frustrated. Jaden had lured him into his world, and Preston didn't realize it until it was too late. At the same time, Jaden used subtle moves, observations, conversations, and logic, to prove that the theft had been staged. Eventually, a maid confessed seeing Preston sneak into the study that night. The watch was found buried under a pile of linens in his private bathroom. Mr. Langston said nothing, just stared coldly at his son. Preston was sent away for boarding discipline. Jaden had won again, without moving a single piece on the board. After the scandal with Preston, Mr. Langston sat Jaden and Marianne down in his office. The man who once sneered now looked contemplative. "Your son isn't normal," he said quietly. "He's rare. And rare things shouldn't be wasted, Marianne tensed, protective, unsure what he was about to say. Jaden simply waited. I want to take him under my wing. Teach him. Give him the tools he needs to go further. Not just in chess, but in thinking. Strategy. Life. Marianne's heart pounded. She wanted more for Jaden, but this offer sounded binding. Mr. Langston leaned forward. He'll still be your son. You'll still live here. But the boy is going to change things. I can feel it. Jaden nodded once. Okay, he said, like he'd already decided days ago. Marianne hesitated, then gave in. She saw the fire in her son's eyes, the same fire he'd had since he was 4 and solved puzzles faster than grown men. Whatever came next, Jaden was ready. Under Mr. Langston's guidance, Jaden's world exploded. He was given access to books, private game archives, simulations, and even cryptographic puzzle sets from old war rooms. Langston didn't just test Jaden, he challenged him, pushed him, forced him to think beyond the board. Chess, he said one evening, is just life in disguise. But it wasn't always smooth. Jaden would get stuck on certain problems. He'd grow frustrated, restless. Mr. Langston, once cold and aloof, now showed signs of strange pride. Failure is part of the climb, he'd mutter. The man, obsessed with winning all his life, saw in Jaden something he'd never had, natural brilliance. Meanwhile, Marianne watched from the shadows, torn. Her son was rising, but rising into whose world? The boy still hugged her every night. Still helped fold laundry. But there was something different in his eyes now. Something older. Wiser. She wasn't sure if it scared her, or made her proud. One afternoon, a tall, mysterious man arrived at the mansion unannounced. He wore a suit, carried no bag, and spoke only one sentence when he met Mr. Langston. I heard there's a prodigy here. Mr. Langston narrowed his eyes. Who are you? He asked. The man gave a thin smile. Just someone who likes good chess. He challenged Jaden to a game. No introductions. No small talk. Just two minds colliding over a wooden board. The air grew thick with tension. The game stretched for over 2 hours, long, brutal, unrelenting. For the first time, Jaden looked unsure. The man didn't play like others. He predicted Jaden's instincts. Moved like a shadow of the boy's own mind. But Jaden didn't break. He recalculated. Changed rhythm. Sacrificed pieces with terrifying boldness. And in a final twist, laid a trap so delicate, so perfect, the visitor didn't see it until it was done. Checkmate, Jaden whispered. The man stood up slowly, shook Jaden's hand, and said, You're not just a genius. You're a monster on the board. Then he left, never to be seen again. That night, Jaden had a strange dream. He stood on a massive chessboard, life-sized, where the pieces were people he knew, his mother, Mr. Langston, Preston, even the mysterious visitor. A shadowy figure across the board kept moving pawns, reshaping the game around Jaden's every step. No matter where he moved, someone fell. He awoke in a sweat. Marianne was already up, humming softly as she cooked. Jaden didn't tell her. Instead, he sat down and started drawing new strategies, new defenses. Something about that dream had shaken him. Chess had always felt like a game, a sanctuary, but now it felt like a battlefield. Mr. Langston noticed the change. You're playing harder, he said. Faster. More aggressive. Jaden didn't reply. He just nodded. The truth was, he no longer played for joy. He played like his life depended on it. Because something deep inside him whispered, one day, it just might. The estate hosted a private gathering, select guests, quiet wine, and one purpose, a private match between Jaden and the reigning regional champion. A grown man, tactical and seasoned. Unlike the others, he didn't mock Jaden. He simply said, Let's see what you've got, young man. The game began slow. The champion respected Jaden's talent, even complimented a few of his moves. But midway, Jaden made an unexpected blunder, a rare oversight. The champion pounced, launching an attack that pinned Jaden's king into a corner. For the first time, murmurs echoed through the room. Was the child finally outmatched? But then Jaden did something shocking. He sacrificed his queen. Gasps filled the air. The champion leaned back, confused. Within 5 more moves, he realized, Jaden's blunder wasn't a mistake. It was bait. And the queen's sacrifice? The opening to a brutal mating net. Checkmate, Jaden said. The room went dead silent, then erupted into stunned applause. Not everyone clapped. Among the guests was a quiet man with a scar across his temple. He said nothing that night, but watched Jaden like a hawk. Later, he approached Mr. Langston privately. "That boy," he said, "has a gift some would pay anything to control. Keep an eye on him." Then he vanished into the night. Langston, unsettled, installed more security around the estate. Marianne was moved to a safer wing. Jaden noticed the changes immediately. "What's happening?" he asked. Mr. Langston shook his head. "Nothing you need to worry about, yet." But Jaden knew better. The chessboard wasn't just a game anymore. Someone out there was watching. And waiting. Jaden began locking his room. Studying harder. Preparing for something he couldn't name. He started dreaming of hands moving pieces in the dark. Every game he played now felt like a warning. The enemy wasn't on the board anymore. It was somewhere out there, invisible, but very real. One night, Jaden awoke to the sound of footsteps. Not the usual creaks of the old mansion, but deliberate steps. He opened his door silently and found a stranger in the library, standing over the chessboard where he usually practiced. The man turned slowly. "I've heard stories," he said. "Thought I'd see for myself." He offered no name. Just motioned to the board. Jaden sat down. No words. Just war. The pieces clattered like drums. The man was skilled, more than anyone Jaden had faced. But Jaden fought like a cornered lion. They played into the early hours, both drenched in sweat, eyes bloodshot. The game ended in a draw. The man stood, nodded once, and whispered, "Next time, I won't go easy." Then disappeared before the guards could catch him. Mr. Langston tightened security. "He came to test you," he muttered. "To measure what kind of threat you are." Jaden didn't sleep that night. He knew now, chess had made him a target. To protect Jaden, Mr. Langston began designing psychological challenges, twisted puzzles and mental mazes meant to stretch and sharpen his cognition beyond chess. "Your real enemies won't play fair," he warned. "They'll twist your thinking. Manipulate you. Break you from within." Jaden took the challenge seriously. The tasks were brutal: paradoxes, unsolvable games, memory scrambles. Jaden cracked them all, though each left him more drained than the last. He was changing, becoming colder, more calculated. Marianne noticed it. "You don't laugh anymore," she said gently one night. Jaden didn't know how to answer. Because she was right. But with every challenge, he grew sharper. His mind felt like a steel trap. He could see 10 moves ahead in conversations. Predict moods. Anticipate betrayal. He didn't just understand chess anymore, he understood people. And that made him unstoppable. One evening, while searching the mansion's old records, Jaden stumbled upon something strange, a photo of Mr. Langston as a young man, playing chess with a child. A child who looked eerily like Jaden. He confronted Langston, demanding the truth. The old man sighed. "That boy was your uncle. My protégé once. A genius like you." Jaden stared. "What happened to him?" Langston looked away. "He got caught in a game too big for him. He trusted the wrong person. And he vanished." The pieces fell into place. Jaden wasn't the first. He was part of a legacy, a long, hidden game stretching across generations. "Do you still want to play?" Langston asked softly. Jaden nodded. "Now more than ever." Because this wasn't just about chess anymore. It was about finishing the game his uncle never could. A letter arrived with no sender. Just a message, one final game. "Come alone." Jaden knew it was dangerous. But he went. He found himself in an abandoned estate, dimly lit, a chessboard in the center. And across from it, the same scarred man from months ago. "Time to see if you're really the heir to this game," he said. They played in silence. Hours passed. The man was relentless, every move like a dagger. Jaden bled pieces. Lost ground. But never hope. He waited. Watched. And finally, he found the break. A pattern in the chaos. He flipped the game on its head, using every lesson he'd ever learned. Sacrificing, redirecting, trapping. In a final, savage move, Jaden advanced a pawn to queen, cornered the king, and whispered, "Checkmate." The scarred man leaned back and laughed, cold, but impressed. "You've won, boy. The board is yours now." Then he vanished, leaving behind nothing but a toppled king. Jaden returned to the estate, changed. Mr. Langston looked at him and saw not a child, but a master. "You've done it," he said. "You're no longer the joke we once thought you were." Jaden smiled slightly. "I never was." Langston laughed bitterly. "No. We just didn't see it." Marianne hugged her son tighter than ever before. "I don't care how many games you win," she whispered. "Just stay you." Jaden nodded. Deep down, he knew the games would never end. There would always be new challenges, new traps, new boards. But now, he was ready. Because once, a millionaire laughed at a maid's son and invited him to play chess as a joke. And now? That boy ruled the board. And no one would ever take him lightly again. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning.